Hi, I'm Jimmy. In this video, we're asking a question that sounds a bit bearish, but I don't think it has to be. What happens if the AI bubble pops? The key idea here is this. AI can be a real technology, and some AI stocks, if not all of them, can still be priced too aggressively at the same time. Both of those things can be true at the same time. Think about the internet. The internet was a real thing, but things got way overpriced, hence the technology bubble. This is a mistake that many investors make in almost every bubble. They think the debate is this thing real or is it fake? But I don't think that's really the right question. The internet was real back in the turn of, going into 2000. The internet was real. The railroads, if you go all the way back to the early 1800s, the railroads genuinely changed the way everything worked. But the problem was timing, the price, and the assumption that every dollar that they spend today would quickly turn into profit. That is how those bubbles were created back then, and it is likely to end up being the situation that we're in right now. But first, we're going to look at how big the AI boom has become, and then we'll look at what could actually cause the bubble to pop. After that, we're going to run through who would take the hit if a bubble does in fact pop. And then finally, we're going to end up with a simple checklist that we long-term investors could use. So this boom is not just about AI chatbots. It's about chips, data centers, power, cooling, networking equipment, cloud contracts, financing. Goldman Sachs recently came out and said that they believe that AI infrastructure could require up to $7.6 trillion in capital from 2026 to 2031. Now, of course, that's not going to play out exactly like that, but if anything, this gives us an idea of how big this bet actually is. This isn't a small test that some new companies like Anthropic or ChatGPT or OpenAI are testing the waters with. This is a massive play, and it's one of the biggest capital spends in history. We can see the exact same thing in electricity. Recently, the International Energy Agency came out and said that they expect the use of data center electricity to more than double by 2030. That's important because when technology starts demanding real-world things like land or power or chips, construction labor, well, suddenly the investment cycle becomes much harder to smoothly reverse. At the same time, the stock market has become more concentrated. The S&P 500, the top 10 companies on the Investors Grow website, when you plug in an ETF, this is VOO. This is a representation of the S&P 500. As of right now, when we look at the top 10 holdings, the top 10 holdings represents more than 39% of the entire S&P 500. That's outrageous. There's 490 plus other companies outside of these top 10, and these are almost 40% of the entire index or the entire ETF. So even if we as investors are just investing in, let's say, VOO, and we're just invested in an index fund, well, suddenly a lot of our investments are tied to a very small number of companies. And as we can see here, a lot of these companies are tied to AI. So what makes this a bubble? It's not that AI is useless, or I've seen some people argue that AI can be wrong and that is true, and therefore it's useless. I'm not sure I totally agree with that, but it's not even about that. The real thing that would make something like this a bubble is when expectations run too far ahead of cash flows. To put it simply, when investors start paying today for profits that may not show up for many years or may not show up at all for some companies, that is what makes a bubble. The dot-com bubble is the cleanest example. Back then, 1999, the NASDAQ rose 86%, and then it fell from its peak by about 77% going into 2022. But the internet did not disappear. The winners kept on building. Think about the big internet companies today. And then the losers ran out of cash. And investors hopefully learned that just because it's a revolutionary technology, it does not automatically make every stock tied to that technology a good thing. The internet did in fact change things, but that did not stop a stock crash from happening because prices simply ran too far ahead of what cash flow was. So what could cause the AI bubble to pop? Well, it's not likely to be a single dramatic event that, sends the whole thing crashing. It's more than likely to be just disappointment in general. Companies spend hundreds of billions of dollars, but customers, let's say, don't adopt AI fast enough, or AI gets too expensive, or they adopt it, but they don't, pay high enough prices, or the productivity gains are real, but they take longer to show up at the bottom line from a cash flow perspective. If it takes longer than investors expect, well, that alone could cause the pop. So I recently read a research report from Bloomberg, and Bloomberg Economics modeled a scenario where confidence broke for investors. And in that scenario, the S&P 500 fell by 20%. Uncertainty jumped, credit spreads widened, data center investments, temporarily at least, stops. And that's not really a prediction. It's more of a stress test than anything else. And I think that this is useful because really what it does is it gives us what channels matter the most to the AI boom. So the first channel is what they call the wealth effect. If AI stocks fall hard, investors feel poorer. When people feel poor, they usually spend less. Think about this, about how it would ripple through the economy. That matters because household spending is a huge part of the broader economy, and a stock crashing, let's say just the top 10% of the S&P 500 began to crash, well, that's likely to ripple through in what people spend on restaurants or cars or housing, or even how many people get hired. A pullback in the stock market has a ripple effect through the entire economy if people's confidence continues to drop. By the way, again, on the Investors Go website, consumer confidence is already fairly low. So we'll keep that in the back of our mind as we go forward with this. The next channel is capital spending. If hyperscalers and AI companies decide that they overbuilt, well, they stop buying, let's say something like GPUs. They slow data center construction, power projects, cooling systems, servers, network equipment, consultants, all of that begins to slow. The suppliers take a big hit when it looks like the boom is running out of steam. Right now, it seems like these companies that are supplying the hardware, are the safest of all the bets. But if things run out, if spending slows, they're the ones that are going to see growth. The brakes are going to be slammed on their growth. Okay, then the third channel is credit. If investors start questioning AI returns, lenders are going to demand higher interest rates. Companies that are depending on financing suddenly have fewer options if interest rates go up, or if investors start demanding a risk premium. And that does not mean that every AI company fails, but weaker companies and higher leverage companies can get squeezed quickly. Again, we're already seeing signs of this. There's already been many things out there. I'll do a video at some point on the credit squeeze that is happening on many companies, especially companies tied to AI. And that Bloomberg research report, well, the first year cost to the global economy is about 1.6 trillion. The US economy gets pushed close to a recession. They were talking about Taiwan and South Korea get hit especially hard because they're so directly tied to advanced chips and AI hardware. So this wouldn't just hurt Silicon Valley, but this would be a global supply chain problem. Now, this doesn't automatically mean another 2008. This is an important point. The dot-com style bubble can be painful without turning into a full banking crisis like we had in '08. And the difference largely sits with who gets hurt the most. Is it shareholders, or does that spread to banks and private credit and forced selling? That was the problem with 2008. 2008, banks essentially created their own problem, but it had such a ripple effect because banks are crucial to the economy. So as investors, we should separate the strong companies from the fragile ones. A company using free cash flow that they are already generating to fund AI spending is very different, or they're in a very different position than a company depending on debt or customer prepayments or even circular deals where everyone is financing everybody else's deal by trading, chips for equity and things like that. That group it looks fine until confidence disappears, and then that becomes a real big problem real fast. Another issue is productivity. Now, AI may eventually be very, very powerful, but economy-wide adoption takes time. So I recently saw a survey where they surveyed, it was like 5,000 or 6,000 executives, and they found that about 70% of firms have already adopted the use of AI. But it was 80% of those that have adopted AI have found either no impact or minimal impact from AI over the past 3 years. So they're adopting it, but it's not really helping all that much. Now, this doesn't mean that AI is failing. It just means that the payoff takes time. Like all things, despite how fast it is growing, because it is growing impressively fast. It doesn't happen instantly. This stuff takes a while. So here's a checklist I would use for long-term investors. First, is the revenue real? Or is it being pulled forward by, let's say, a temporary building boom? Our customer, are they stuck in circular deals and that's what's making revenue ramp up? If it is, be wary of it. Second, are customers earning a real return on AI spending? Are the customers of the companies that we're looking at from an investment standpoint, are they getting something out of it, or is it really just hype? Third, is the company funding growth with free cash flow, or are they funding it with debt? That's a crucial one. And fourth and finally, does the current stock price assume that everything goes right? This is my biggest issue with AI stocks today. If you look at the pricing assumes massive growth very fast, and it assumes everything is going to go well. If it doesn't, a lot of these stocks are going to have massive corrections, and that could be a real problem for many investors who overpay. If you either wait for the correction or you buy it at a good price, you wait for a pullback and buy it then, we're far safer. This is why margin of safety is so important. A great AI company can still be a bad stock at the current price if that current price assumes perfect execution. And a weaker AI company can be dangerous even after it falls, because if the business model depends on constant funding, the downside can be much bigger than it first appears. Research is crucial here. If we're looking at AI companies, especially the smaller ones, we have to do our research. So where does this leave us? For me, I wouldn't look at AI bubble popping as proof that AI was fake or somehow wasn't real. I would look at it as the market resetting expectations. The strong companies are likely to survive. Some suppliers will get hurt, and the weakest funding-dependent companies are likely to get destroyed. And investors who thought that an index fund was automatically diversified must realize that they have far more AI exposure than they might have understood originally. So if you're looking at individual ETFs, even if you're a more passive investor, well, if you jump onto a website and look at the holdings, just see how big, how diversified are the holdings. Now, if you're newer to investing and you're curious about how to analyze a company thoroughly, well, I actually did a video called 8 Steps to Analyze the Stock, where we try to walk you through where to get the documents, what documents you can get. And then if you're using a site like the Investors Grow website, where we try to make it quick and easy to value companies, well, hopefully that will help you avoid mistakes and avoid companies that have a weak balance sheet or are doing, let's say some questionable things to improve revenue temporarily. So if you'd like to sign up to get access to the Investors Grow website, I'll leave a link right here. And if you want to watch that video on 8 Steps to Analyze the Stock, link over here, link in the description below for both of those. Thank you for sticking with me all the way to the end of the video. I really do appreciate it. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.